God bless the sharing and hearing of His Word this morning as we pause and take a few moments and consider this passage that Dan just read. Interesting, the word retirement in that particular passage, which goes along well. Retirement is something that affects all of us, really at any age, when we stop to think about it. For those who are already retired, you know that you have a limited income that's pretty much stable year after year, even with prices that may change or rise or whatever may happen with the economy. The income that you have remains pretty much the same. And there are always other factors that come into play with that, like health issues that come along. Then there are issues of eventually not being able to do some of the things that you like to do, maybe driving a car or maybe needing a little more care as life goes along. And so there are a lot of concerns for those who are retired. Those who are close to retirement or considering retirement. I've talked to a number of individuals who those plans have changed over the last few years for a number of reasons. And there are a lot of concerns out there about retirement. Very legitimate concerns, you know. Our IRA is going to be large enough for what we need? Are our portfolios diversified enough for what I'm going to need? Life, you know, we live longer these days, and life expectancy is expected to continue to rise. And so one of the questions we ask ourselves in preparing for retirement, am I going to run out of money before I run out of life? That's another issue that we deal with in thinking about all these many things of retirement. And young adults. Young adults. There are issues there, a whole different set of issues. How many young adults today coming out of college have huge loans, college loans that need paid off? And we're talking, of course, of quite a few years in many cases for that to happen. But not only do you face college loans, you end up with purchasing a home, with having a family, raising children. One thing after another, there are a lot of expenses. How do you save enough for retirement? And then there's always the question, will there be Social Security to help out a little bit? It's a serious issue. A serious issue that you know, retirement planning is a legitimate concern for all of us, really, at any age. It affects all of us. In today's lesson from Luke, it looks at some planning, future planning, but it looks at it from a little different perspective, from God's perspective. And from God's perspective, it's planning beyond retirement, so to speak. You know, he's looking at planning beyond retirement and how you prepare in that planning and getting ready for that time. You know, he has a parable here. You know, he has a parable of this landowner. And, you know, his agricultural IRAs are fully funded and more. He's looking at all that he has, and he says, wow, I've got a lot of stuff here. I've got a lot of crops. What am I going to do with them because I don't have enough room? Golly, I need to do something with them. And so he tears his barns down, and he builds larger barns so he can put more of his stuff in. It's kind of like getting a new house because it's bigger and more room for all my stuff. But he has these bigger barns built so he can put it all away, and then along comes God. Along comes God and says, oh, what are you doing? He said, you just don't see the full picture here. You don't see the full picture of life itself and what you're doing. Because this very night, your life is going to be demanded of you. And all these things that you prepare, whose are they going to be? Whose are they going to be? He clearly needed some different retirement plans beyond retirement. And so Jesus, in the end, his statement is pretty powerful there. He says, so is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. And is not rich toward God. Now, understand something. Jesus isn't saying it's wrong to have wealth. I don't see anywhere in Scripture where it says it's wrong to have wealth. Jesus doesn't deal with that issue. What Jesus deals with is our perspective on wealth. Our perspective on what we have. And what kind of control does it have over our life in comparison to God? He talks here about being rich. He doesn't say having wealth is wrong, but he says, don't put that in front of being rich toward God. Don't put that in front of being rich toward God, because that's his perspective. That's God's perspective on life. It's realizing, for one thing, that wealth doesn't necessarily bring happiness. Now, in our hearts, we think, yeah, we think in our head, I'm going to say our heads, we think, yeah, that's right. Wealth doesn't bring happiness. Look at lottery winners, they're miserable. But yet, there's a part of us that thinks, if I earn $25,000, I'll be a lot happier if I earn 50. Or if I earn $100,000, I'll be a lot happier if I earn $200,000. The truth is, it doesn't guarantee happiness. It doesn't guarantee that, because there are a lot of other issues that are involved. Louis Latham is a magazine editor. And 30 years after graduation, he ran into one of his Yale classmates that he graduated with. And this classmate was very successful, a very successful businessman. And of course, the conversation his friend he'd run into said, I'm nothing. My life is virtually nothing. He said, I earn $250,000 a year, and my life is nothing. Louis Latham thinking, what in the world's going on here? $250,000 a year and your life's nothing. What's happening? Until this fellow started going down the list of things that he had that needed, expenses. Needed expenses that he had. He talked about his Park Avenue apartment.